quiet January afternoon in suburban Georgia, two 16-year-old honor students flagged down a police officer with devastating news they'd just discovered their mother in their home, no longer alive. But within hours, investigators would begin to suspect that these grieving teenagers were hiding the darkest secret imaginable, that they themselves had committed this horrific act. This is the story of Jasmia and Tasmia Whitehead, identical twins whose relationship with their mother spiraled from dysfunction into unthinkable violence, leaving a community shattered and a family torn apart forever.
I found a clump of hair. Normally, a clump of hair is insignificant in a female's house simply because there's hair everywhere. But when that clump of hair is attached to a substantial amount of flesh that has been pulled out of somebody's head and then has been wrapped in a napkin and stuffed into the toe of a shoe, you begin to realize that the twins were not telling us anything that was truthful.
What did she say? What happened then?
She went under a couple times and that was it.
Before we begin, take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments below. If you were a parent struggling with rebellious teenagers, what would you have done differently? Your perspective matters, and your voice could help others facing similar challenges. The suburbs of Conyers, Georgia, had always been known for their peaceful atmosphere, a safe haven roughly 30 miles outside Atlanta where families could raise their children away from urban chaos. The Bridal Ridge Walk subdivision, with its gated entry and well-maintained homes, seemed like the picture of middle-class security. It was the 13th of January 2010 when that sense of safety shattered. A Rockdale County Sheriff's deputy was making his routine patrol through the neighborhood that afternoon when one of two teenage girls came running toward his vehicle, visibly distraught and gasping for breath. What followed would become one of the most shocking criminal cases in Georgia's recent history, a case that would challenge everything people thought they knew about family bonds. Jamaica Yvonne Whitehead, known to everyone as Nikki, entered the world under the most difficult circumstances imaginable. She was born on April 18, 1975, while her own mother was incarcerated for substance-related offenses. From the very beginning, her life was marked by instability and hardship. Raised primarily by her grandmother Della Frazier, Nikki grew up without the structure that many children take for granted. She left home at 16, finding herself on the streets and struggling to survive. By 17, she was expecting, and the father of her children wanted nothing to do with her or the babies she carried. Nikki gave birth to identical twin daughters, Jasmia and Tasmia, on November 27, 1993, when she was just 18 years old. She moved back in with her grandmother Della, who essentially took over raising the girls while Nikki tried to establish herself. Friends and family members would later describe Nikki as someone who desperately wanted to be a good mother but struggled with consistency. She worked various jobs, including as a beautician, and even went back to school to study fashion design, determined to create a better future for her daughters. But according to Della, Nikki's involvement in her daughters' lives ebbed and flowed. She would be present and engaged for periods, then disappear to socialize, leaving the primary caregiving to Della once again. For the first 12 years of the twins' lives, they lived with their great-grandmother while their mother drifted in and out of their world. The girls were bright, talented, and accomplished. They excelled academically as honor roll students, participated in Girl Scouts, and were involved in dance, music, and sports. They seemed destined for success, often speaking about their dreams of attending prestigious universities like Harvard or Yale. But beneath this veneer of achievement, a complicated family dynamic was forming, one that would have tragic consequences.
Do not get a consolidation loan until you see this. Hey, Mario Lopez here, and if you're thinking about getting a consolidation loan to combine your credit card debts or your personal loan debts into one, then there are 3 things that you should know. Number one, many people don't qualify for consolidation loans, especially now with tighter lending standards. 2, even if you do qualify, you still have to pay back everything you owe. 3, there is a little-known way to consolidate your debt. You may qualify for where you don't have to pay back all you owe, and you can lower your monthly debt payments. I recently discussed how this works with a financial expert. To learn more, just keep watching this video. Hey, Lynette, I saw you on Oprah where you were talking about money issues. Do you remember that?
Hey, Mario, yes, that was a great episode, and I think it really helped a lot of people.
I'm sure it did. What are you working on right now?
Well, I'm actually working on a special project that reveals a 2-word secret people can use to reduce their credit card debts by half and lower their monthly payments.
Oh, I know a lot of people that benefit from that. What's the 2-word secret?
Well, it's called debt negotiation.
Okay, I think I've heard of that before. What is it exactly?
Well, it's a form of debt relief with a proven process and government regulations to protect consumers.
Oh yeah? What are the benefits?
First, it allows you to reduce the total amount of debt you owe. Second, it allows you to reduce your monthly debt payments. And third, it allows you to become debt-free in as little as 24 to 48 months.
Well, those are some great benefits right there. How much total debt can people get relief for?
Well, as long as it's unsecured debt, like credit cards, personal loans, medical bills, and even certain types of student loans, then it can be used for all amounts of debts, from $20,000, $50,000, even over $100,000.
Wow. So how do people learn more and get started?
Check out this company called the American Relief Organization. They're an industry leader that has an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, and they've helped hundreds.
One that would have tragic consequences. Everything changed in 2007 when Nikki, then in her early 30s, met Robert Head, a long-distance truck driver. Their relationship developed quickly, and Robert offered Nikki and the twins stability they'd never known. He welcomed them into his home in Conyers, providing financial support and a safe neighborhood for the family. For a while, it seemed like Nikki had finally found the fresh start she'd been seeking. But Robert's job kept him away from home for extended periods, leaving Nikki alone to manage 2 increasingly strong-willed daughters, something she had little experience doing without Della's help. As Jasmia and Tasmia entered adolescence, the simmering tensions with their mother began to boil over. The girls, now 13, had spent most of their formative years with Della, who by all accounts maintained a more relaxed household with fewer rules.
It was difficult for them to start hearing and accepting the word no.
When Nikki attempted to assert parental authority setting curfews, monitoring their relationships with boys, restricting cell phone use, the twins pushed back hard. They viewed her attempts at discipline as hypocritical, coming from a woman who had been largely absent during their childhood and whose own past was marked by instability.
She lived with Robert, and she also had a boyfriend named Joe. The twins had indicated that Robert had overheard her speaking to the other boyfriend on the phone and indicated that Robert had confronted Nikki about the infidelity.
In 2007, Nikki made a frantic call to emergency services when she discovered that 13-year-old Jasmia had sneaked out of the house in the middle of the night to meet a boyfriend.
Conyers 911, where's your emergency?
I just woke up and my daughter's gone at the house.
How old is your daughter?
Oh, Lord, 13.
It was clear that Nikki was losing whatever control she'd had. The arguments between mother and daughters grew increasingly volatile, shifting from verbal confrontations to physical altercations. Police were called to the home multiple times as the situation deteriorated. One particularly frightening incident revealed just how dangerous the relationship had become. Nikki called a friend in a panic, explaining that she'd locked herself in the bathroom because the twins were trying to attack her. When police arrived, they documented scratch marks and signs of struggle on Nikki's body. Tasmia also had scratches, and she claimed her mother had initiated the fight. The officer who responded, Myra Scruggs, found herself deeply unsettled by what she witnessed. She spent time talking with the girls, noting their immaculate bedroom, expensive clothes, and seemingly privileged life. Yet something felt profoundly wrong. Officer Scruggs recalled that after the situation appeared to calm down and everyone agreed to go to bed, she had an instinct to remain nearby rather than leave the subdivision entirely. Within minutes, she heard screaming coming from the direction of the house. Racing back, she found Nikki running from the home, extremely distressed, with the cordless phone still in her hand. The twins had attacked her again the moment the officer left. What struck Officer Scruggs most was the twins' complete lack of emotion, their cold detachment after such a violent confrontation. The twins were taken into custody and the family was ordered into counseling. Eventually, the situation became so untenable that in 2008, Della Fraser regained custody of the then 14-year-old twins. For over a year, the girls lived with their great-grandmother, and during this time they flourished. Despite the documented history of conflict and the twins' vehement protests, the court ordered Jasmia and Tasmia to return to their mother's custody on the 5th of January 2010 for a mandatory 2-week trial period. According to later court testimony, the decision caused chaos in the juvenile court hallway. Jasmia, particularly upset, made a chilling statement in Nikki's presence expressing extreme anger about returning home. No one could have known how prophetic those words would prove to be. Just 8 days later, Nikki Whitehead would be gone forever. The afternoon of the 13th of January 2010 began like any other patrol shift for the Rockdale County deputy driving through Bridle Ridge Walk. Then he saw one of the Whitehead twins running toward his vehicle, tears streaming down her face, barely able to catch her breath. She and her sister had just come home from school, she explained, and found their mother inside something terrible had happened.
When I walked in the front door, it was the first time I'd ever been on something as horrific as that.
Evidence saturated the carpet, splattered the walls, and marked a trail throughout the home that told a story of desperate violence. Following the path, officers found Nikki Whitehead's body in the bathtub of the master bathroom. The medical examiner determined she'd been attacked numerous times with a kitchen knife. Her injuries were catastrophic. Her spinal cord had been nearly severed at the neck, her lungs punctured, major blood vessels cut. A broken vase on the living room floor appeared to be the initial weapon used in the attack. The trail revealed Nikki's final, desperate attempt to survive. She'd made it to the back door, trying to escape, but found it locked. She'd even reached a neighbor's door, pounding on it and ringing the bell, but no one answered in time. Pulled back inside, the attack had resumed with even greater intensity. Eventually, she'd been dragged to the bathroom, placed in the tub, and left there. Someone had attempted to clean up the scene. Towels were missing from the linen closet, later discovered in the washing machine. A pair of boots sat neatly in a shoebox in the closet, also covered in evidence. These details suggested the perpetrator had spent time at the scene afterward, trying to cover their tracks. Investigators immediately focused on Robert Head, Nikki's boyfriend. As a potential suspect, domestic situations between romantic partners often turn violent. But the twins quickly eliminated him, explaining he was away on a long-distance trucking job. They also mentioned another boyfriend, Joe, with whom they'd heard their mother arguing on the phone the night before. Detectives tracked Joe down and questioned him thoroughly. He appeared genuinely devastated by Nikki's passing and had an alibi. With both men cleared, investigators found themselves at a standstill until they began paying closer attention to Jasmia and Tasmia themselves. From the very beginning, something felt off about the twins' behavior. In the patrol car on the way to the police station for what was supposed to be a routine victim interview, officers noticed Tasmia biting her own arm. When asked about it, she explained it was a nervous habit, something she did when stressed. But detectives would later realize this was actually an attempt to create new bite marks over the ones left by her mother during their deadly confrontation. Inside the interrogation room, the girls displayed bizarre behavior that deeply unsettled the investigators.
She longed for a bake that didn't end in tragedy. And then he appeared. A man, a legend, a baker of dreams.
Come, let us twist together.
She had been waiting for layers like these. Because with Just Roll, every love story deserves a happy ending. Every bake tells a story.
My neighbor keeps getting so many packages sent to her house, and I'm gonna ask her why the heck she keeps shopping. Hey, I keep seeing you got a lot of packages at your house. Why the heck do you have so many?
Because I shop at AliExpress.
What is that?
You never heard of it. You can get 3 things for 99 cents on there.
Really?
Let me show you.
Okay.
This is AliExpress, and if you download off this video, you get 3 items for 99 cents plus free shipping. I didn't believe it at first, but it's actually true. Try it out for yourself by tapping below to download AliExpress.
Investigators. They cried but produced no tears. They comforted each other physically in ways that seemed performative. And then they made perhaps the strangest request detectives had ever heard. From grieving daughters, they asked if they could watch an episode of the television show CSI. Detective Ken Swift recalled that at that moment, the hairs on the back of his neck stood straight up. When the twins were finally separated and interviewed individually, their stories began to unravel. They claimed they'd walked to school after missing the bus, leaving home around 7:30 that morning and arriving only 10 minutes late. But surveillance footage from a nearby gas station showed them at 10 to 10 in the morning, hours after they claimed to have left. The video revealed them getting into a stranger's car they hadn't walked at all. School security cameras confirmed they didn't arrive at school until much later, and they arrived together, undermining their timelines significantly. Physical evidence painted an even more damning picture. Both twins wore gloves throughout their police interviews and were reluctant to remove them. When they finally did, detectives observed numerous scratches and bite marks on their hands and arms. The twins initially claimed these were from a fight they'd had with each other previously, but investigators weren't convinced. Forensic analysis would later prove that the bite marks on Tasmia's arm matched dental impressions taken from Nikki's teeth. Evidence found on the broken vase and on the boots hidden in the closet belonged to both Nikki and her daughters, and because the twins were identical, their DNA was indistinguishable from one another. Still, building a case against 16-year-old girls for such a serious offense required absolute certainty. Detectives needed every piece of evidence analyzed and confirmed before making arrests. The twins were released into the custody of their great-grandmother Della and told not to leave the area. For 4 months, Jasmia and Tasmia went about their lives as if nothing had happened. They attended school, socialized with friends, went to their prom. They kept their grades up and maintained a low profile. But investigators were methodically building their case, and on the 21st of May, 2010, the last day of the school year, detectives arrested both twins and charged them with malice and felony offenses. The transformation was instant and shocking. The grief-stricken victims who'd wept in the interrogation room vanished, replaced by teenagers who cursed viciously at officers.
Wonderful! Like having coffee and donuts and having a good jolly old time. She don't care. So what's them a bite more? And they said they tapped me on the cheek on my arm. I'm going down for something I did not do. Me either. The day you find a murder with my fingerprints on it or something, please do that. Please sign a murder with me and then get rid of her. Thank you.
Threatened them and insisted they'd done nothing wrong. In the police car, they were recorded shouting profanities and maintaining their innocence with aggressive defiance. Investigators described them as hostile and threatening, noting it was like watching a complete transformation. The vulnerable teenage girls they'd interviewed in January bore no resemblance to the hostile young women now in custody. For nearly 4 years, Jasmia and Tasmia Whitehead sat in separate jail facilities awaiting trial, maintaining their innocence. Because they were minors at the time of the crime, they were initially held in youth detention centers, then transferred to county jails when they turned 17. The prosecution prepared for what would be a challenging trial, proving which twin inflicted which wounds would be nearly impossible given their identical DNA. The defense attorneys argued this very point, suggesting reasonable doubt existed about their client's individual culpability. But as the trial date approached in early 2014, both defense teams approached prosecutors with a proposal. The twins were willing to confess to everything, to describe in detail what happened that January morning in exchange for reduced charges.
It wasn't like it was a fight on the street. It was more of a fight till somebody died.
A
fight with their mother after waking up late for school.
She just started waving the pot around and things like that or whatever. And so I guess she trying to hit us with the pot. You know, she just threatening us and everything.
Your mom's yelling?
We all yelling.
Everybody's yelling.
We mad.
I had took the pot from her. This one she had grabbed the knife, kind of turned like you said, get back. But she didn't keep the knife in her hand.
My mom is winning that battle with the knife or whatever, so I picked up the pot and I hit her with the pot. She bit me in the chest. Like I said, I'm not that big, so when she bit me, she latched on to me and I'm trying to get her off of me because it hurts. I'm trying to punch her, I guess. And I think Dad stabbed her. He stabbed her. So I was stunned. I think I picked up a knife and I stabbed her. They wasn't cuts like they were deep because I couldn't bring myself to do that.
You had it by the hands?
Yeah, I think I had it. I was at the top.
And Jazz had her feet.
Yeah, she was heavy.
And what did y'all do?
We put her in the tub.
But
she hated us. She hated us. And I guess like the same thing. We're going to jail.
But what are you saying to her?
I'm sorry. I told her I was sorry. She went under a couple times and that was it.
When that was it, let me use your words, when that was it, what'd you and your sister do?
I guess we were shocked. We were really relieved, I guess, what we did. We cried. I cried for a long time.
Rather than face life in prison, they would plead guilty to voluntary manslaughter, acknowledging they'd taken their mother's life but claiming it happened during a mutual fight rather than premeditated action. The prosecution agreed, on the condition that the confessions would be recorded and detailed. What emerged in those videotaped confessions was chilling in its brutal honesty. According to the twins, the morning of January 13 began with them oversleeping and running late for school. When they came downstairs, Nikki was waiting, already angry about their tardiness and their persistent defiance of her rules. An argument erupted immediately, screaming. Accusations, resentment that had been building for years, suddenly exploding in the kitchen. In Tasmia's account, Nikki struck Jasmia with a pot. Tasmia grabbed it away, and Nikki then seized a steak knife. What followed was described as a frenzy, all three women fighting, scratching, biting, hitting. At some point, Jasmia struck Nikki over the head with the broken vase. When Nikki bit down hard on Jasmia's chest, refusing to let go, Tasmia grabbed the knife. Jasmia confessed to picking up one of her childhood medals and using its ribbon during the struggle. Then she took the knife and continued the attack. The confrontation was relentless, driven by rage and fear and years of accumulated pain. At some point during the chaos, Nikki managed to escape and ran to the neighbor's house, pounding on the door for help. But when no one answered, she returned home perhaps too injured to go further, or perhaps still hoping to somehow resolve this nightmare with her daughters. Back inside, exhausted and losing strength, Nikki sat down in the kitchen. According to the twins, she then lunged one more time, and the final blows were given. Together, the twins dragged their mother's body to the bathroom and placed her in the tub. Nikki's final words, according to Jasmia, were expressions of anger toward her daughters and statements about consequences. Jasmia claims she told her mother she was sorry. Then Nikki went under the water several times, and that was the end. The twins sat for a long time afterward, crying and in shock over what they'd done. Then, with the cold calculation that only intensified the horror of their crime, they attempted to clean the scene. They washed the towels, changed their clothes, hid the boots, and tried to remove evidence of their involvement. Then they went to school, establishing an alibi, and returned home hours later to discover their mother's body and flag down police. On the 9th of January 2014, almost exactly 4 years after Nikki's passing, Tasmia appeared in Rockdale County Superior Court to enter her guilty plea to voluntary manslaughter and related charges. Judge David Irwin sentenced her to 30 years in prison. 1 month later, Jasmia followed suit, receiving an identical sentence. The twins began serving their sentences in separate Georgia Department of Corrections facilities. Tasmia was sent to Arundel State Prison, while Jasmia went to Pulaski State Prison. Behind bars, both young women worked to better themselves. Jasmia graduated high school while incarcerated and served as her class valedictorian. Della Frazier attended the ceremony, expressing pride in her great-granddaughter's accomplishment, despite the horrific circumstances that put her there. Both twins earned their GEDs and pursued vocational courses, one in medical technology, the other in computer technology. The twins became eligible for parole in 2017 after serving their mandatory minimum time, but their requests were denied. As of 2025, they remain incarcerated with potential parole review dates in the coming years. If they don't receive parole, their projected release date is May 19, 2020, when they'll be 46 years old. They will have spent more of their lives incarcerated than they spent free. The case continues to generate discussion about family dysfunction, the failures of the juvenile justice system, and the question of whether intervention could have prevented such a tragedy. Some argue the court should never have forced the twins back into Nikki's home given the documented history of conflict. Others point out that despite their difficult relationship, Nikki was trying to be a mother to her daughters, and the twins could have sought help rather than resorting to violence. There are those who believe the twins were themselves victims of an unstable upbringing and that their 30-year sentences are too harsh. And there are those who believe that anyone capable of such actions against their own mother deserves exactly what they received. What remains indisputable is the profound tragedy of it all. A young mother who grew up in impossibly difficult circumstances, worked hard to create stability for her daughters, and met a terrible end at their hands. Jasmia and Tasmia could have gone to school that morning, come home, and lived to fulfill their dreams of attending university and building successful lives. Instead, a perfect storm of resentment, poor judgment, explosive anger, and family dysfunction converged in a few terrible minutes, destroying 3 lives irrevocably and leaving countless others forever scarred.